the windshield effect to skyrocket your progress. Some of you may try to stick the key in that motivational engine in your brain and the engine is stalled. You can't get that engine to start in your head. You don't know why, but you know you want it to start. We're going to reference two amazing books that are backed up by neuroscience and history. It's proven track record to start that motivational engine in your brain. The first book, one of my favorites of all time, it's Robert Greene's Mastery. Now this is a study of about 3,000 years of the greatest practitioners in engineering, athletics, mathematics, teaching, engineering, music, and how they got there. In the introductory chapter, he talks about a famous study by neuroscientists. They studied primates and found that when they did a certain act, a neuron in the brain would fire. But what is really interesting is when the primate stopped doing that act but intently watched a fellow primate, that same neuron fired, as if they were doing the act themselves. And the neuroscientists deemed this or termed this the mirror neuron phenomenon. Now, why should you care? What does this have to do with you, right? What's in it for me? Well, imagine if the mirror neuron phenomenon is an application your computer, your brain, runs. It does, in fact. If you know how to program this application, you can command it to do what you wish, okay? Second book, The Little Book of Talent, Daniel Coyle. Now, this is the follow-up to the Talent Code. Daniel Coyle essentially went to the 8 top hotbeds in the world of talent in music, in learning, and athletics. And he found that there were similar traits or principles on how people learned or coached skills. And one of the skills is the windshield effect, what's directly in your line of sight. Now this is the practical application of the mirror neuron effect. The students or mentees would stare intently at the performer they wanted to be like. He called the windshield the power source or the energy source for the brain. And the second principle was the engraving principle. First you stare intently, you listen intently, and then you emotionally anchor yourself in and imagine you're doing that task, that event, that action. So it builds on the mirror effect, and you start engraving that behavior, and you start developing the traits and the intuition of those people you mirror and engrave. The third principle we're going to use for this video is the sled on the snowy hill phenomenon. Now, this was a term coined by neuroscientists. It's a way to conceptualize how new habits or lifestyles or traits become permanent. Now, imagine your brain is a snowy hill, and the sled is a neuron firing or you doing an action. You fire a neuron or you do an action, and the sled goes over the snowy hill, and it creates a track. Now, here's why most people fail. They get really worked up, usually around summertime or New Year's Eve, right? New Year's resolution, and they really intensely go over that snowy hill and create a track. But they do it very infrequently. And what happens, snow comes and covers up that track. So there's no habit, there's no sticking of behavior. It's more useful to do things very frequently with less time instead of doing stuff really intense but very infrequently, okay? So when you go over that track daily, you create a permanent track or a habit. And once that track is formed, it's very hard to get rid of that track or that habit. So, Chris, give me something I can use today. This is great information, but how do I start that engine? Here's the practical application to use the windshield effect. In the morning, middle of the day, and before you go to bed, you either have a video clip, an audio clip, or a picture of a lifestyle or a trait that you want. And you do this 30 seconds to 60 seconds. You just literally look at it, watch it, listen to it, and then imagine you're exhibiting that trait or behavior. In your windshield, stare at it, you engrave it in your brain, and you go over that track frequently. Now, if you do this 3 times a day for 10 days, I guarantee you that motivational engine in your head will rev up loud. People will start pointing at you. They'll notice there's something different about you. Personally, in my own life, I do this every single day. There's an audio clip I listen to right now. I've listened to it probably 100 times. And I've ingrained this thought process and behavior and adopted it myself. So again, use the windshield effect to skyrocket your progress.